these showers.
Get showers on that.
Sorry. That one's on shower.
What is in there?
Yeah. Like it's so quiet, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
What was that?
Can I have everyone in the room right down? Right at the end to your right. Nearly finished.
Of the what?
View.
Oh, the view. True.
Yeah. Room and have that little courtyard.
Torch in my pocket. Got it right in my pocket. Pocket's full of shit.
Now, in the 1800s, the Victorian doctors believed that they could shock the patient's body into shocking the patient's mind into behaving normally. One of the earliest forms of these treatments was practiced in Bethlehem Asylum in London, which earned the nickname Bedlam. Wardens would hide behind walls and doors, jump out, grab the lunatic, throw him to the floor, jump on their chest to help drive out the demons. that might be lurking inside. Hydrotherapy was also used. Patients would be strapped to chairs and dumped into baths. They will change in temperature according to the patient's response. They would also be force-fed water. So one of the darkest parts of this asylum happened right here in this room. And one of the darkest hours of psychiatry. ECT, or electric convulsive therapy. Patients would be first strapped down to the bed. The doctor would then attach electrodes to the lunatic's temples. Then, with just experimental knowledge of electricity and the simple flick of a switch, send hundreds of volts of electricity straight through the patient's brain. Now, this electricity is so violent that it caused the patient to shake and convulse for minutes. So aggressive that they even broke bones. And the doctor would continue to pump the electricity through the lunatic's head until they were rendered unconscious and into a coma quite similar to a grand mal electric seizure. You can see on the floor here how hard the bed just shook. Now today, ECT has a maximum of 12 zaps, but back then, the patients here could have had more than 100. When this place closed down, there was actually a team of medical professionals who had to come down from Melbourne and surgically remove men from restraints in their beds, still in this room. Now, one of the saddest places I find about this asylum is this room, but also that view that you get as you look out the windows. The tens of thousands of men who suffered in this room, and for thousands of men, some insane, some sane. That view out those windows was the last of what they saw of the outside world and what many of us take for granted. Asylum, we actually experimented with LSD here. Yeah. And it was to do with eliminating the use of mechanical restraint. You see, we started experimenting with barbiturates in the 1920s, and these put you to sleep. The earliest form of this was opium, which was used a lot in the 1800s. But the most common one that was used here in the 1920s up until the 1960s before it was banned was insulin. Patients were starved for a couple of days to reduce their blood sugar and then be jabbed with a high dose of insulin, and this would dissolve any of the remaining sugar. But LSD was used in the later years for schizophrenic patients. The doctors thought that by giving the patients a bit of a trick, they could have all of their visions in one go and be cured. But we know that's not the case. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have one small flight of stairs left for the night. We're now standing in the cage, pretty obvious name, and this is where the warders would stand so they could keep a... You get a better torch, don't I? Where they could keep an eye on the entire asylum. Now, the cage wasn't originally over this walkway. It was put here after some of the lunatics thought it was a good idea to throw their doctors or their warders over the edge. For themselves, yes. Now you can see over in the middle of the asylum here a clock tower, which never actually had a clock face in it in the 130 years the asylum was operating for. Because of all the problems that the building had, they could never afford it. So the lunatics actually took it in turns to pull the longest stick, run up the staircase and ring a bell once a day at midday. The patients here actually had no sense of time. They never knew what time it was exactly. They were very regulated in what they did and when they did it, but they didn't have a clue themselves. It was all told to them. Everyone keep coming up just so we don't annoy the other two. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the conclusion of tonight's tour. In the 130 years Ararat was operating for, it went through numerous name changes as our view on mental health changed over the years as well. When it opened in 1863, it was known as Ararat Lunatic Asylum. It then changed its name to Ararat Mental Hospital for the Insane, and then finally a psychiatric hospital. Now, for tens of reports of ladies dying of hypothermia right up until the 1970s. Now, trusted lunatics in cells like this were given iron beds. Not so trusted, just straw mattresses on the floor. If they're incontinent, these would be changed maybe once a week, if they're lucky. Now, we had one form of treatment that happened in these cells that was only ever documented in Victorian asylums, and this was called bagging. It first started with the lunatic being shackled at their wrists and ankles and then chained to their waist. They were then sewn in a large canvas sack tight up to their neck and then left there up to a week, sitting in their own excrement. It was said to be a form of treatment, but it really was just punishment for the lunatics. Fortunately for us, we get to leave. You see the dividers here, you can pick 3 legs here, 3 legs here, and so on. But the asylum was regularly and definitely overcrowded, and there were often straw mattresses over the floor. Now, who could be admitted here? The 1863 Lunacy Act was so broad in its definition that anyone not considered normal could be sent here. And I'm sure I'm not the only one in this room who might fit that description. Not sure if you all got the opportunity to have a look in the museum. There was an A4 printout of the list of reasons why you could be sent here. Some of them are quite unusual. Like, you could be left-handed.
I'm fine.
One that
I'm done.
probably still be
Lock me up
today.
now.
You could have been a politician.
Fortunately, I'm not.
They should still be in here, I believe. So one of my favourites is kicked in the head by a horse.
Yeah.
Actually, something lucky. But women were particularly vulnerable, and it only took 2 signatures to be admitted here. But it would take up to 4 years and 8 signatures to get out. You could have been suffering from postnatal depression, 5 children, and your husband's just sick of you. So he signed a bit of paper, and he's got his friend who might be the local butcher to sign as well, and admitted you here. You could have had a younger woman move down the street, and your husband just wants a new model, an upgrade. You could have been sent. Prostitutes, women who weren't behaving female enough by Victorian standards, lesbians were locked up in here. We know of one mother who went to the police in Ararat about her handbag being stolen. She was committed. We also know of another mother whose milk dried up and with no way to calm her starving baby, slit its throat. And she was committed here. Now the staff here had little to no training to take care of the lunatic, and are paid very little for their efforts. In fact, you could sign up to be a nurse here at the age of 16. And escapes are common. We know of one woman who escaped here in 1883 and went straight to the papers to report of the ill treatment that she had seen. She described seeing patients beaten with keys and hosed down with high pressure hoses. She reports one woman refusing to eat, and the warders shoving the spoon so far down her throat that when they removed it, it was followed by a spurt of blood. The patient's life here was confined by space. We've already been through multiple doors that back in the time of operation would have been locked. All of these had to have been locked every time a patient was transported from the ward. But the patients had a lot of free time here, and on this window over here you can see an etching of a man's face. If you look through this window, there's an airing yard where in the later years of the asylum, patients who were sexually compulsive were put out here to amuse themselves. And probably anyone up here watching them. In fact, if you were a male and you were caught masturbating in your own home by your wife, and she didn't like the idea of that, you could be admitted here. And this was law up until 1935. But if you were a woman, you could go down to your local GP and be medically stimulated right up until the 1940s. Because women back then were known to suffer from a type of lunacy called hysteria. And I bet you we all know that the first electrical device was Thomas Edison's light bulb. But the third was a hysteria machine, and Queen Victoria herself had a gold-plated one. Today, we do know this was a vibrator, of course. But let's get back to if you were caught masturbating within the asylum. First, you'll be placed in leather mittens that were locked at the wrist. But see, the lunatics had a lot of free time here, and many of them were quite determined, so they would shoot through these and get a hand free. If they were caught again, they would be taken down to the dentist and have their teeth removed one by one in a time before local anaesthetic. And then placed back in the leather mittens, placed back in the cell, ready to live out the rest of their lives. Now, life here was described as being cold and dull, and there was an air of neglect about the place. The lunatics' lives here was very regulated. So get up at the same time each day, have breakfast each day at the same time, go to work, go to bed at the same time, day in, day out for years. And work was very important to the Victorian doctors, you see. They used it as a measure of sanity. The harder you could work, the more sane you were. But we didn't get the best workers out here, because Kew Asylum in Melbourne, they wanted the best. They were right in the heart of the CBD and in the public eye. So they took all the lunatics who could work, and we got sent to the leftovers. Now, we're about to go down a flight of stairs and outside, but before we go, I do just want to point out these mirrors that a few people have seen tonight. They were placed within the wards so that the nurses could stand in one part of the room and see around the corner. So where you're standing there, they could see if there was a lunatic hiding behind that window from inside the nursing station. This was used a lot in the women's ward because that's how women like to attack. They're sneaky, they bite, they scratch, they pull hair. And we have heard some footsteps walk through this part of the room, but they're quite clearly high-heeled. And the only woman allowed in this part of the ward with high heels was a nurse. And we believe this to be Nurse Kerry also. Nurse Kerry was a kind nurse, like I said, and we believe she's still here taking care of some of the female patients. So we better keep moving before we get in her way and she decides to take care of one of you.
But you close me way happy to this.
It's huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what we came up. Oh, no, it's not.
I don't know.
Oh, that's right.
I know. It's like we're holding it down.
So there obviously there's heaps of buildings that we can't even see from here. Is there? Yeah.
I think there's still 63 or 68 still standing.
Oh, you're
Jesus Christ.
Can you walk around here during the day?
Not the main building, there are some...
What about the ground?
We're now standing in the female maniacal area, where the female lunatics wander during the day. Now, in a building that's supposed to be self-sufficient, you're going to need lots of water. So, in the original design of the asylum, the rain collected off the roof and verandas and went down into large holding tanks beneath our feet. There are 7 of them in total, each holding around 20,000 gallons. But the bee soon began treading through the asylum, and it was found that the lunatics were opening up those windows they could half ahead. Pretty much. Reaching into their hand and throwing it out onto the veranda. When the next rain came, it washed it down into the holding tanks and spread it through the entire asylum. It would soon be designed to be collected just off the roof. It was then pumped up to large copper holding tanks that were erected in those towers there. Can't see the other one. In those towers there, and then distributed through the entire asylum. Follow me.
That's pretty cool.
Routine names, but no, it's important. You can mix it. Let's get it like great.
We're now standing in one of the finest halls in the entire state. Originally built with chapel, they also have a fortnightly dances here. So, in the early days, the lunatics were kept segregated. So this was the only place where the pretenders could come and socialise. So it might seem nice at first that the authorities brought the lunatics into the little shindig, but it was yet another experiment. You see, the Victorian doctors believed that to be declared sane, you had to act like a normal Victorian gentleman or a normal Victorian lady. But many of the lunatics here could not act like this, which was why they were here in the first place. So, while for many this was a happy place, for others it was another world from the beginning. Another interesting story about dancing that occurred here involved a local farmer called Aradale Thompson. And he started to suffer from a condition called chorea. It is a Greek term which means to dance, and it's also where we get the word choreography from. Today it is known as concentric disease. It starts as trembling in the chest, and as it works its way out, it gets worse and worse, and makes the patient look like they're dancing. It is degenerative and affects mostly men between the ages of 35 to 50. There is no cure, and perhaps worse, it doesn't kill you. It just reduces you to a state of wreck. Now, when Alexander was first arisen here, he could barely feed himself. And this was limited somewhat by medication, but in the 1800s it was extremely primitive. Alexander's supply ran out for 2 weeks. By the time they got more to him, he was severely malnourished, suffering from bronchitis, and he was dead within a week. A sad common story here that Alexander's situation doesn't end there. You see, Huntington's disease is hereditary, and Alexander had 12 children, 3 of whom all suffered from Huntington's disease and were committed young. and all three there with you here. Now, before we move on, ladies and gentlemen, I would just like to point out the window at the end here. It is one of our most popular photo sites. We have a lot of people capture video of someone standing on the stairwell behind the window. That is not possible for someone to actually be standing there today. The bottom ready of that staircase no longer exists, and it's the only accessible point. Once you're all done, please follow me. The kitchen.
Oh,
If anyone ever thinks this is the morgue, please run. You do not want boiling pots in a morgue.
Well, it was the 1800s.
Now, in the 1800s, Aradale was one of the largest farms in Victoria. It is 150 acres today, but back then it was as large as 450 acres. The lunatics here grew vegetables of every description. They had sheep and cows and had their own abattoir on site where they slaughtered them. They grew olives and made olive oil.
Who's dancing? It was
Now they grew olives and made olive oil. They grew grapes. The lunatics here grew some of the best wine in the entire state in the late 1800s. Award-winning, in fact. Yet the dietary considerations for the lunatics here was barely enough to keep them alive. For breakfast, they would get a little bit of bread and some milk, maybe some jam, and they were well liked by the staff. For lunch, if they worked out in the fields, they would be given a little bit of dried meat, similar to jerky, and some more bread. For tea, they would be given some more dried meat, and again some more bread. They would be given rice twice a year to cater for the Chinese community. In the 1800s, we, as a state, experienced one of the largest human migrations in the history of humanity, when gold was discovered in Victoria. And as a result, 40% of the population here were Chinese at one point. But we weren't completely heartless. We did give them sweets twice a year. Once on Christmas Day, and again on Queen Victoria's birthday. God bless the Queen. Now, if you were one of those lunatics who managed to get a hand free from earlier and had your teeth removed, you would be given salt. Salt is damper soaked in wheat tea, and this would be your meal for 365 days of the year. Could you imagine surviving in a place like this on nothing but salt 3 meals a day, given the conditions? Continue.
That's better.
You are now standing in the oldest part of the asylum. You can see the original bluestone walls that have now been rendered over. Now, there was some food kept down here, mainly just like your fermented fruits and vegetables, your long keeping items. And there were a few lunatics who worked down here. I mean, there were a few staff that worked down here, but mainly trusted lunatics. You can see the bars on the air vents here that would stop the lunatics from breaking out. But maybe more importantly, it was to stop them from breaking in, because a well-fed lunatic is a lot harder to control. Now the staff here were paid very little. You, sir, might have been paid around £100 per year, while you would have been paid half, 50. And there was a community of violence among the staff, especially the male warders. It was a status symbol that they could single-handedly take down the most dangerous lunatic.
I'm waiting.
Now, two of the staff members here left and actually committed murder. One of these was Charles Deutschman, a man from Ararat, who one day his wife sent him down to the shop, but it wasn't the grocery shop. It was the gun shop. He bought a gun, filled it with ammo, killed his wife and wounded her father. And he was the last man executed in Ballarat jail. The building has always had a strange effect on people. In fact, one of the buildings who built this place actually went mad.
Okay, I get that.
Oh, he disappeared.
On that note, we'll keep moving, ladies and gentlemen. Male lunatics who were sick or infected with disease were sent so they didn't infect the rest of the asylum. But medicine was extremely primitive in the 1800s, so this was where the sick came to die. And we're going to go inside it.
Oh, beautiful.
Now, do I have a volunteer? Yep, here.
Yeah. Oh, the floor is slippery.
Dangerous. Set me up, someone's going to jump out of somewhere.
Oh, is it? Watch out. Nice.
Oh, okay.
Big boy. Nah, he's dead. Oh, it's just dinner. Where? It's fake. vacant. Oh, fuck, I'm down. Whoa.
We're going back this way. Oh, I just kicked the door and it was like.
It didn't go in, it just came out.
Me? Not in.
Cells at the end here. We believe these will be used as waiting and recovery cells. So user might be in this cell, while user might be in that one. We're first bringing out you on to operate on whatever ailment that you might be suffering from, and then shove you back in there to recover. And then we'll bring you out, sir, and operate on. All the while you're in there, listening, looking, hearing everything that is happening out here. Now, the other form of surgery you'll find at a lunatic asylum is psychosurgery. And this is different to normal surgery, as it's surgery on the brain itself, designed to produce a change in behaviour. In the 1800s, many experiments were conducted to see exactly what part of the brain did what, and these culminated into the 1940s, into what became known as psychiatry's darkest hour, the lobotomy. Now, the idea was originally marketed by a travelling salesman of the doctor, Walter Friedman, who went from town to town in his very own lobotomobile. He described it as a psychosurgery that even a child could do. His critics years later described it as brain surgery with a chainsaw. First, the patient would be knocked unconscious using ECT. The doctor would take this large metal tool like an ice pick and place it directly into the patient's eye socket. Then, with just a slight tap, would drive it 5 inches into the patient's frontal lobe and sever the brain neural pathways. It doesn't sound like a lot.
No, yeah. I think your brain
During the time that Walter Friedman conducted these lobotomies, he must have completed the operation about 2,500 times.
Jeez.
And he became so good at it, he could complete it on both eyes within 3 minutes. The average was 12 to 15 per eye. But the results were quite unusual. You see, a third of the patients actually got better. Another third had no change. They stayed the same. While the last third got worse or even perished. Walter Friedman even had a woman brain hemorrhage on the table, all because he switched hands so that he could take a photo, because the newspaper reporters weren't doing a good enough job and they weren't getting the right angles. The youngest patient that this procedure was performed on by Walter Friedman was a 12-year-old boy called Aradale. And he actually wrote a book on the experience, which feel free to Google. Now, one of the most not so nice experiences that happens in the asylum happens in this room. And It's usually women while I'm standing here talking, they get the taste of blood in their mouths. So before that happens, we'll keep moving.
Oh, you're dying. Oh, I thought that was him coming up behind me. Like, surely not. Ah, where's that? Where's that AC? Beautiful. Hot and cold when you're dying. It's down there. Is that where we came from? How dark is it when you turn it off? Ooh, that's scary. He's just gonna pop out of nowhere.
It is on grass, so please watch your footing on the way down.
Watch your head on the trees.
Oh, submarine. I might turn into a lunatic if I hit the tree. Don't attack me.
I'm gonna be really stupid at like
Alright. Oh, it is. Yeah.
oh, I'm not going.
Set it.
You got up this glass. Or if you hang this down there.
Where? No, there'll be.
Over here, left.
Oh.
Piece of pizza.
Oh, here it is. Just a random building.
Feel free to go in and have a look around.
I'm so glad somebody else went first.
Yep.
They got a body chill in the rain.
Milk. Milk.
Is anyone going in or?
Oh, they do have the body chill. They have got the body chill.
Make sure it's still on.
Now, do I have another volunteer who would like to hop on the table?
Yes, right here. Get it,
I won't
girl.
shine it in your eyes.
Get on over there.
Easily. Head up this end. I don't think you want it where the drain lies. Oh, now you're jumping. So at times, Aradale could be a very inefficient machine, and the average death rate here was 3 to 4 a week, and often higher because disease spread through the place. Not once, but 3 times they had typhoid here. This isn't the original morgue. The original morgue was described as a pigsty, and this was replaced in around 1890s. There were no fridges, And this room here would have been more of a cold room where the bodies were kept, and the original autopsy table was out there. Now, you can see the angle of the table here, that it's slanted to one end, so that all the fluids could drain onto the floor and then go into the drain in the middle. Autopsy is quite a tricky thing for most people to get their head around. Am I turning this torch on again? It's going to flash. No, that's fine. Autopsy is quite a tricky thing for most people to get their head around. First, a Y section is cut, exposing the rib cage. This is then cut with a type of shears which exposes the viscera. First, the lungs are removed, then the heart, stomachs, intestines, all placed on metal trays and examined for anomalies and causes of death. The skull is then cut and the brain removed. This is also examined and studied. When the procedure is done, all of the organs, in no particular order, are stuffed back in the body, stitched up, and then the coroner's called. He comes and takes the lunatic's body to the Ararat cemetery, where more often than not, it was buried in an unmarked grave. There are thousands of lunatics buried in the Ararat cemetery. You can get up, my love. And we'll go see how our friends are silent, ladies and gentlemen.
We sit around.
Nice view.
We're now in one of the male maniacal airing yards where the male lunatics were allowed to wander during the day. My torch was a little bit better, but over here you can see
That's all fog.
a section of the ha-ha wall, as we call it. It is a French term that comes from a French-Canadian village called St. Louis-la-Ha-Ha, which built one of these walls around their village to help protect the fruit trees from people stealing the fruit. Now, this is different to a prison wall, because from the outside it's meant to look like a normal wall. If you're on the other side of there, it would be about head height, and if you're on your tippy toes, you'd be able to see over it. But as you can see on this side, it's protected by quite a large slope, and if you were to be at the base of that wall, it is over 3 meters tall.
Haha, wall.
And we had some very artistic patients here back in the day. Along the wall there is a whole chain being carved into it. Over here, though, we have a carving of a horse into the bluestone. And we do have an interesting story about a local man who trained racehorses and women how to ride them. One day he was helping a woman how to ride a horse. When she got on and it bolted, he chased after it, but somewhere down the track he caught up and had seen the woman fallen off and hidden her head. Thinking that she was dead, he had a nervous breakdown and walked up that long driveway and admitted himself to the asylum, only to later find out that the woman only had a concussion. You can imagine him spending months and months on end carving away and dreaming of what he loves. Let's continue.
How's he done? Body parts.
I looked through a window before and saw somebody else's reflection.
We're now standing in the main hall of Great Executive, and according to the 1800s design of an asylum, the best kept lunatics were at the front, but the worst were where we are right now. So, what sort of lunatic could be kept in this part of the asylum? Murderers. We know of 2 lunatics, a Spelsey and a Forrester. They were good friends and trusted lunatics, and one day they were working out in the fields when Forrester looked up from the dirt to see Spelsey standing over him with a shovel. "Get away from me!" Forrester screams. But Spelsey just drives his shovel over and over and over again into his friend's head. Forrester ended up in the Ararat cemetery. Spelsey ended up here, where he stayed until he died. Other sorts of patients were extreme epileptic. The wardens considered these men to be considerably hard to control during a bad fit. Also extreme schizophrenics. Now, one is a motor neuron disease, and the other is a mental illness. Yet they were both kept down here with men who could have just murdered their entire family. Let's continue.
You wanna attack me as soon as I open this stuff? You wanna open some food for me? Just give me some. Oi! Oi! Oi!
I can't see.
Yeah, go.
Oh, it's not coming out.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. You can't have it all. You can't have it all, mate.
Share with your friends.
You gotta share with your friend. Yeah. Yeah, mate. Oh, no, I've started something here.
I told you.
You can't have it all. Hey, share. Sharing is caring.
Look at the top of their heads are soft.
Delicious. Well, you're going to eat a solid act, mate.
You scared the life out of me. You see the little baby one over here?
There's two at the top there.
No, only here, like on the round cage thing. It's on the other side.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir.
Are you recording?
Have you seen them, Bodie?
Chickens.
Want me to lick you? Oh, they're so cute.
Just gotta go pat it.
I took a video. I think that's the oldest people talk.
Oh, you can be. You're studying stuff.
Still going to be a zookeeper, but
Nut all the chicken.
Look at their tail.
Oh, lost chicken again. Doesn't know what he wants. Ooh.
you know. Response, and stuff. There's a lot of other animals you can't actually see the colour difference between the grass and it really matter. The grass is green, yellow, or brown.
Bones.
See,
Bones, no.
I wonder if
Fussy.
bone.
Oh, this one now.
See all the
Oh, this one now.
Oh.
Oh, he's done.
Right.
Donkey. Get some food. Must be. Does it make it easier to eat them? No, they're just munching it.
Run away to eat. That nobody to. Asian small cord alive. Yeah, we got to see the otters. Oh, so you can't tell he didn't finish eating before he went back for another one.
Him?
Yeah.
Struggling, mate.
Yeah. We'll keep eating that one. And finishing what was in his mouth.
Oh, he's got. Oh, this one there. I wonder what they're eating.
Go. As soon as you can't see it.
The bee's gonna get him. Oh, I can smell it.
The fish. The bee.
Was that what it was? Fish, shellfish. What else? I can take one home.
Alright. How cute is it? Thank you, go. Be no moose.
Heaps of them. Oh my god.
I want to
my
know if
friend.
they're soft.
You reckon? Reckon this up?
I don't
I reckon
know.
that'd be strawy. I reckon.
That's what I mean. I want to know.
Just chillaxing in the front. Squashing the baby. Not coming out. One up. Here we go. The baby's going crazy. Feet. Might be too scared. Oh, he's got some food there. No. Oh, maybe.
Trying to get closer so you can smell it.
Well, you might move in a sec. You might go backwards. Oh, no. He's like, you're trying to fatten me up.
little buddy. Okay.
Where's he going? We're doing so much today.
Come here. Come here, or I'll give it to the deer.
Hey, settle, my friend. Oh, that's too much. Oi. Where's the other one? Looks like you guys are getting fed. Oh, fed you? You've not got your plate yet? Nah, how rude. Yeah, watch out. Oh, he's eating your thing.
No, it's gone now. Yeah, he nearly took my shirt.
Yeah, they do that.
I'm getting pets from a dude.
God, just hates me.